The sun, first of stars, seems to have lost his wonted light and appears of a bluish color. We marvel to see no shadows of our bodies at noon, to feel the mighty vigor of his heat wasted into feebleness, and the phenomena which accompany a transitory eclipse prolonged through a whole year. The moon, too, even when her orb is full, is empty of her natural splendor. Strange has been the course of the year thus far. We have had a winter without storms, a spring without mildness, and a summer without heat. Whence can we look for harvest, since the months which should have been maturing the corn have been chilled by Boreas? How can the blade open if rain, the mother of all fertility, is denied to it? These two influences, prolonged frost and unseasonable drought, must be adverse to all things that grow. The seasons seem to be all jumbled up together, and the fruits, which were wont to be formed by gentle showers, cannot be looked for from the parched earth. But as last year was one that boasted of an exceptionally abundant harvest, you are to collect all of its fruits that you can, and store them up for the coming months of scarcity, for which it is well able to provide. And that you may not be too much distressed by the signs in the heavens of which I have spoken, return to the consideration of nature, and apprehend the reason of that which makes the vulgar gape with wonder. I'm Acadia Einstein, and this is Strangeful Things.
Sheltering in place is not advised, as your survival cannot be ensured in that scenario.
Love has practically caused me to just get you destroyed.
Unsolved, unresolved, and super complicated.
Strangeful Things.
After the second longest cold open in the history of the show, I'm Acadia Einstein, here with Shuey.
Howdy do.
And this is Strangeful Things, where we talk about fucked up shit and make it inappropriately funny. Or appropriately funny, depending on your vantage point, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
Different people's appropriate will be inappropriate for others.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose sometimes there's no way to make it appropriate unless you're like Stalin's mom.
Yeah.
But he probably killed her too. But we're not talking about Stalin this week.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to come across any relatives from anybody impacted by today's story, so.
No, well, other than everybody.
Yeah, but nobody's going to be able to trace it back.
Yeah, that's true too. All right, so before we get to the actual story, we got to do New and Good, because that's a tradition. New and Good.
I'm working out new and good theme songs. New and good.
I mean, that was a jingle more than a theme song.
Good. Soon we'll be telling you lots of stuff.
Jesus. That was a fucking hate crime.
That's not nice.
Holy shit.
I always wanted to be a singer.
Well, that didn't come true.
Wars, those
all right, stop
crazy
it.
Star Wars. What?
Doing New and Good, you bastard.
I don't want to do a new. All right. I guess my new and good was, as you know, we've been off for a couple of weeks because somebody got COVID on the show, or thought they had COVID on the show. So that was me. So I'm all good and better and ready to rock this week. So get ready for a hell of a show.
Yep. He was trying to break the world record for getting COVID the most
times.
I
could do it.
I mean,
I'm not afraid.
Wouldn't you think that, like, eventually, like, COVID would become a benefit?
How do you mean?
Like, if you get it enough times, then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, you're immune to other stuff.
It's like a superpower.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's how the X-Men work.
My immune system is so jacked
That's
because
right.
of COVID.
My fucking
Throw some
corpuscles will
HIV at me, and I'll be like, get that shit out of here. Ebola,
antioxidants. Hand
throw it
me
right
the
in the
bottle of
garbage.
oxidants.
I want all the oxidants.
So, well, yeah, I guess that was. It's not new because it happened like weeks ago because you had to convalesce, which is why we haven't done a show in 30 months. But also, it wasn't good because you were sick. So,
Yeah.
fucking double fail for you.
Well, it's good that I'm not sick now, and that's also
that's true.
new. So
that's a pretty good spin. It's a good spin. All right.
It's a hell of a spin. I could be a freaking, I don't know, whatever, communications director for the White House or some shit. That's how I can spin shit.
Quick on your feet. That's
right. Yeah. Super quick.
So my new and good is, well, all I want to do, we can't spoil anything. So without referring to what we're talking about, I just want to think about sexy deep fakes. That's all. But we can't. I can't explain why. But probably people that listen to this show will know why. About how you can take people that and you can make fake. You can make real people fake. That's the
right.
The way to put it.
You can swap faces and put in new faces and stuff.
Yeah, it's not like that this person doesn't exist.com where they just make fucking realistic looking people.
Yeah.
Like that's making fake people real. That's different.
Right. No, to be timely, I would say this is similar to The Running Man.
Yeah.
That's a very timely reference. But think about it. It's like 30 years later or whatever, 35 years later, we have the fucking technology to do that shit.
You're right.
And we're heading into a fascist state, so maybe The Running Man wasn't that far off.
Well, it was nothing like the book.
Was that an actual book, or was that like a short story?
It was a short story.
Yeah,
it was a short story.
Richard Bachman thing, right?
Another one of Stephen King's short stories, The Long Walk. I keep hearing, like, maybe it was you. Somebody sent me the link about how, they finally made it into a show or a movie or whatever. And I'm like, no way. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just something that used the name because the story, The Long Walk, is in some weird dystopian future. You just have these fucking kids because it's kids because Stephen King can't fucking handle
keep
adults.
His hands away from kids.
But yeah, so he, you got to walk 3 miles an hour. If you go lower than 3 miles an hour, you get a warning. And if you get 3 warnings, you don't get a 4th warning. The army guys that are riding along next to you just shoot you. And the person that wins is the last person alive, and they get anything they want for the rest of their life.
Oh, well, that's a good prize.
Yeah, but you gotta outwalk 99 other fools.
Yeah. And
they were teenagers, I guess. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't win.
No.
At all.
But I was in decent shape as a teenager. That was like the one 5-year period of my life where it wasn't a fucking mess.
Well,
let's say 4 years.
50,
3 and a half.
Let's not go
2,
crazy.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we're going to talk about a time period. And I'm not, obviously when I do the research, I have to absorb a lot of, videos,
cookies,
and stories and Nilla wafers and
bacon,
fucking deep fakes of all the contestants, all the everyone from The Running Man, Jim Brown and Jesse the Body and the fat opera guy that was in the
guy.
Yeah, all of them.
The lights all over.
Triple
and the Asian
team
hockey player. Make it a 5-some.
Yes, but in my deep fake, they're all just fucking going to town on Mamie Eisenhower. But due to budget cuts, Mamie is still in black and white. And everybody else will be like, who the fuck is Mamie? I don't know who that is. So that could just be a real person.
Oh my God. Yeah,
So,
I saw one with Mother Teresa.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, getting DP'd by Chewbacca
and Snuffleupagus. What? Stop it. All right. We're going to talk about, so I watched all these things, and it's based, our episode tonight is based on a study that was done by a bunch of Harvard nerds that weren't trying to study this whatsoever. Right. They were studying some shit about coins and economy and whatever, but it was an interdisciplinary thing. And they accidentally kind of scientifically figured out what the worst year to be alive in the history of Earth was. Now, that's, of course, very relative because every dead person would probably pick out, that year, the year that they died. Unless they were tortured for a year and then died right at New Year's, in which case they would pick the previous year. Yeah. But for purposes of our story, also because it's the truth, the year that they came up with was the year 536 CE, the Common Era.
When did they start using that? I know they used that when my kids were in school.
Well, they didn't when we were in school, so I don't know, the 2000s?
Somewhere between the early 90s and the early 2000s.
Eisenhower and now? Yeah. So,
who is it?
We're going to talk about,
though.
Well, it's what everybody used for. They just had to get the Jesus part out, for fuck's sake.
I suppose. Since it wasn't even actually accurate for that.
All of it's wrong. All of it. Don't even get me started on that.
Wrong.
So we're going to talk about the year 536 and why it was so fucked up. And what we're not going to do is say anything about, oh, you thought 2020 was bad. Herp derp. Any of that bullshit.
Oh, I was going to throw 2021 and do that.
No, the show is immediately canceled. We're not doing it.
Can I say 2019?
No, none of them, because every single
2017 through 721.
No, everything I read, everything I watched, everything I heard, everything I did, everything, every single one of them made the same fucking joke. Drive me fucking bananas. I couldn't. I'm like,
if you thought not getting toilet paper was earth shattering.
Like when I watch all this stuff, when I watch it all, I see who ripped off who. You know what I mean? You can see it evolve. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and so since I'm way down, since we do everything way late, since we're not like right on top of stuff, we have the best one because I have that many more people to rip off and fact check.
Yeah.
So first of all, if you're going to talk about the year 536, let me set a ground rule for everybody listening.
How many rules this week?
But it matters.
All right.
I'm not implying that all these things happened in the same fucking year. It's not that. 536 started all the fucking problems.
Right.
I want to make sure that we get that out of the way, because there's some things that you could watch by YouTube channels that have a lot of subscribers that straight up imply that it all happened the same year. They just name a bunch of shit and then they say this shit. So we're not doing that. Here's what did happen in the year 536.
What happened?
A volcano. That's your show, folks.
A volcano happened?
A volcano
How do you mean?
erupted.
It was formed? It
erupted. No, it erupted. Fucking
Where was
big
said
time,
volcano?
buddy. Big time.
Bigger than Krakatoa.
Well, okay, funny that you should say Krakatoa because it's a funny
funny
word,
name,
but also because there were multiple eruptions, but the one that started it all, they kind of think now at this point was in Iceland. And since Iceland, the entire country of Iceland is just sort of a volcano with a glacier sitting on top of it, that tracks.
Right.
What happened was, and the thing in the cold open, all of this shit, the dust that got thrown into the air, the ash and whatever, was very significant. Significant enough to fuck up the planet in a very, very serious way. So picture the what the dude fucking said in the beginning, or instead of using old-timey language, just say at noon, like from the brightest part of the day,
right,
you still could not see your shadow because there was not enough light to create a fucking shadow.
So I'm assuming that there was a lot of ash in the sky.
But it was super fine. But it didn't matter how fine it was. It didn't matter how fine it was because it was blocking out the fucking sun. And before everybody goes, oh, this was just Europe, which is usually the case in all these things, it fucking snowed in China. There were weather in the summertime, and there were effects of the Moche people in Peru. They got El Nino'd. There's so many neat fucking South American civilizations that just get no fucking...
Yeah.
All they get is stupid white people going, must have been aliens that did that. Fucking
no
dinks.
way they could have built that.
Yeah, right? There's no way they can't. They could have done a thing that we can't do. So
it takes the genius of kings, knights, and serfs to do that.
Fucking boners. So there's no light. Now,
yeah.
Think about seasonal affective disorder, which you would think might be a malady that got made up after we had stopped having to worry about things like the sun being blotted out of the sky and stuff like that. So we needed more stuff to complain about, but
right.
Probably not. Probably it was a real thing. So then imagine the fact that the whole fucking world is that. Like you would, if you didn't have seasonal affective disorder when you started, I bet you sure as fuck would have it by the time you were done being bathed in darkness. Also, vampires running amok.
Vampires?
I didn't think about the vampires. Oh, they did that 30 Days a Night vampire movie in Alaska because of the way the sun works and whatever like that. The fucking vampires. This is when they made their big comeback, probably. Anyway, It got really dark. And since it was super dark, it got colder. And
how cold?
It was significant. It was basically volcanic winter. And volcanic winter, don't fucking sleep on it. It could happen. Like if a big volcano decided to squirt its fertile guts into the sky and blot out the sun, it's not like fucking Elon Musk is going to come whizzing by in a fucking glider with a big bag on the bottom of it and suck up all the dust and bring it to the moon. We're going to be just as fucked.
He'll go fly up to a space station he builds. Yeah. But that's what's going to happen when eventually the Yellowstone caldera blows.
We'll be dead.
That's going to wipe out.
Dead.
Like even down where we are in North Carolina, it would get 3 inches of ash.
Yep.
So that's 3 inches of what will become rock sitting on top of everything.
3
And
inches of
that's
ash, which is what
almost 3,000 miles away, over 2,000 miles away.
Yes.
So this whole northern hemisphere will be fucked.
Well, who's laughing now?
Finally, the southern hemisphere.
It's their time to shine. So it got cold, and since photosynthesis is pretty important to plants, they all died.
They do need sunlight.
Yep, but they didn't get it. I mean, it was bad. It was the coldest decade in 2,300 years.
Yikes.
Which scientists found out later. It wasn't like there was just one really old guy going, I remember when
this is the worst.
When Grocklock and I were no, there was no one named Grocklock. But it fucked up China. There was documentation in Ireland that for 3 years they couldn't make any bread because they didn't have any wheat. But they just called it the bread failure. Just fucking move back up the chain. If it was a wheat failure, don't. Why you gotta fucking make everything complicated?
Right.
That just makes it seem like someone stole all your ovens. Oh, the bread.
Right, like somewhere at the end of the process it failed, not
fucking
at the very beginning.
Not at the fucking source. So this was a big problem.
Out of yeast.
And a lot of people died. And I mean, a lot of people died anyway, but I mean, a lot of people died. Like, overly. And if you take a population of the northern hemisphere, we'll just say, and you fucking wipe out up to half of it, that's going to set you back. Because the guy that was probably going to, like, remember, this was the beginning of what was known as the Dark Ages, where nobody was inventing shit or anything like that. And everything, like,
did they come up with the name, like, in this year and be like,
well, so it's kind of funny.
Because it's so dark.
A few people did bring that up. But it's, the problem with it is that wasn't the only fucking volcano. There were a couple others.
Yeah,
they think one of them might have been Krakatoa, but the guy that says Krakatoa also says a bunch of other kind of crazy shit. So he's not as credible. But then they also think that there could have been one in North America that blew up. It was just basically a big problem. And your general fucking peasant had no earthly fucking idea what to do.
Well, didn't they probably think that, like, the sun was dying and God was giving up?
Oh, of course they were. Oh, the sun will never come.
Like
and I mean, honestly, I could see it. Let's say the sun fucking blotted out.
Right.
Every fucking guy, because I know I would do it. Every fucking guy in the world would tell their significant other, be it a man or a woman, but much more likely if it's a woman, oh, stop worrying about it. The sun will come out tomorrow. Haven't you ever heard the Annie song? Ah, ha, ha, ha. And then the next day it doesn't. And they're like, yeah, no, how long could this last? Well, how about 18 months? You mansplaining idiot.
Dumb.
18 months.
18 dark months.
And the summer temperatures dropped as much as 5 degrees Fahrenheit, which, when I say that, I swear to God, if any of you listening, look on your phone to see what the temperature is and go, oh, it's 67. If it was 62, that wouldn't be so bad. That's not how it works. So don't think of that. Don't just look at your fucking thermostat and subtract 5 and then go, oh, they're a bunch of pussies. Why'd they die? Like, it's worse.
Yeah.
Millions of people died. And it ushered in one of the most adorable things I've ever read in the history of researching this show.
Really?
The late antique Little Ice Age that could. It was the late antique Little Ice Age. That's what it was called. And it lasted from 536, which was the seminal point of all this, to about 660.
Yeah.
There was all sorts of shit that contributed to it too, because there was volcanoes and meteorites and supposedly fucking comets. I don't know why everybody was just dunking
Aliens.
on Earth. Yeah. And they figured this out from ice cores, just so you know. It's not like they just fucking pulled it out of their ass. They're once they started looking into it, they were like, well, they were like, well, you know, we should look into this or whatever like that. Now, but it also didn't affect the whole world. Interestingly, in the Middle East, it rained like a motherfucker, where you would not normally get tons of rain.
Right.
And they had bumper crops.
Huh.
And it happened that they got, I mean, look, everybody, we're going to talk about Rome and Byzantium in a minute, because that contributes to how fucked up everything got. But before we get there are people that are like, wow, the Middle East as a socio-economic / religious power didn't really come into its own until all that shit happened.
Right.
So Islam started in 610, and you can't start your own religion unless you're beefy enough to push the other religions around. So
true.
The fact that they had this extended period of, wow, it sure is rainy, which is great for us. Meanwhile, everybody else is
shitty for all those Christians.
Yep. Fuck them. So that's an interesting. Now, we're not going into.
God likes us better.
Yeah. And you could honestly, you could make a case, but then again, the Catholics would be like, oh yeah, well, how about the Crusades? And then the Muslims would be like, yeah, but you lost like most of the Crusades, including the most important last one, and not the Indiana Jones last crusade.
They could also say, hey, those crusades aren't going to be for another 500 years.
That's true. Well, they wouldn't have said it then. I mean now.
Right.
But also, their shit's just as dumb as everybody else, so whatever. So
yeah, that's the rule.
Are you looking for a new podcast to listen to? Are you looking to fill your library up? Well, then you found me. Hi, my name is Michaela, and I'm the host of Murder Squared. Here we talk about the solved, the unsolved, the missing, the murdered, and pretty much anything and everything in between. Murder Squared is available on all major podcasting platforms. So, if you're ready, get squared away and let's talk murder.
But you know what we can talk about with impunity?
What?
Byzantium. We can talk about Byzantium all we want, because no one's going to be like, oh, you can't talk about Byzantium. Yes, we fucking can.
My uncle was a Byzantium.
A Byzantium. A Byzantine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's why all this matters. And here's why, like, 536 was a fucking problem. Forget about the fact that Europe was all famined up, and also when millions upon millions of people die, contrary to what people would say now, that doesn't, quote unquote, create jobs. Like, it's not, it's bad. It's a bad thing to have happen. And economically things were super, super fucked up.
Right.
Meanwhile, in Constantinople,
not Istanbul, it's still Constantinople.
if you guys don't know what happened to Rome, yeah, well, I was waiting. I knew one of us was going to sing that. The Rome, and I'm not talking about that bitch on TikTok that was telling everybody that Rome didn't exist. Did you see that?
No.
Fucking bitch. And she was so
God.
such a, oh my God. And then of course, like archaeology TikTok got all up their ass about it. Go, oh, we're going to make a video and show her how wrong she is. But I don't think they ever did it because everyone's fucking lazy and doesn't do the shit that they. So it was just a bunch of TikToks going back and forth where they were going, hey, look, she was so stupid. Basically, her whole point was the Roman Catholic Church made up Rome for some church reason.
Huh.
I guess.
Even though
she said it was,
so they even made up the whole history, the fact that Rome existed well before Christianity and all that.
3 Greeks in a trench coat. That's what she says, basically. It was 3 Greeks in a trench coat. Every time you thought you saw a Roman, you were looking at Greeks. Greeks were where it was at. Anyway, Rome had its emperors, and most of them sucked.
Oh, yeah. They were a mess.
And then in 476, they got fucked up by the Vandals. And
the Vandals was spray paint, and they keyed all their cars and chariots and shit.
In their chariots, yes, that's exactly what they did. But even before that had happened, it split into the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire.
Right.
And the Eastern Roman Empire became known as Byzantium.
Yeah.
And so it was Western Rome.
And where was that based out of?
Constantinople. Which had been a city. Obviously, it was. And I think that's actually where I started to look into it, but then I couldn't find anything credible. But apparently, the whole Byzantine thing comes from a word from the people that lived there in the fucking first place, because it certainly wasn't fucking Romans. But Romans didn't even fucking care. They made no bones about the fact that they were conquering everything, because that was their whole jam. Like, we're conquering everything.
Right.
So the Emperor Constantine, who was the one that made everything all Christian, of course he named the town after himself.
Yeah,
because why wouldn't you? And by the time our story comes along, the ruler of Byzantium, which was the Eastern Roman Empire, remember that's important, was Justinian.
Oh, Justin.
Emperor Justinian. No, his father's name was Justin.
Really?
And apparently, yeah. So instead of being Justin Jr., he was Justinian.
Justin 2.
Yep. And he was largely considered, despite all the fucked up dumb things that we're going to talk about in a minute, he was considered like the tip-top best fucking boss of Byzantium that they ever had.
Really?
Yes, to the point where all these people like, oh, look, our constitutions and our laws and blah, 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 and everything like that. Like, everyone bragging about the fact that, like, they have laws.
Yeah.
Most of them are based on the laws that Justinian put into place, the Code of Justinian. Because he basically took a bunch of, other stuff and went, well, this kind of makes sense, and this, I don't know about this, and like
so
that.
Was the Eastern Roman Empire doing better than the Western at this point?
Yeah, because the Western one was getting all fucking chopped up. One of them, and I tried to find it. I tried to fucking find it. It was there was Germany, but it wasn't Germany then. It was just a bunch of like they're countries now, but before they were just gangs of jerks. They were like, "Get out of here, Rome. We're done with you." And one of the Roman emperors like made a deal with one of them. I couldn't fucking find it because when I explained to you why, you'll see why Googling it was so hard. Apparently he cut a deal with the people that were attacking him, going, "Okay, well, look, just don't murder us all. Instead of murdering us all, let's cut a deal. Come over to my house and we'll tell everybody that we're going to run things together." And the fucking Visigoth or whoever he was said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And then when he got over there, he just cut the Roman guy in half, cut his body in half at the meeting.
Huh.
Which is a good, strong negotiation tactic, but it's not great for being alive or being the Western Roman Empire. So by the time Justinian was around, there wasn't a lot. It was basically the eastern part, which, I mean, that's not so bad. It's not the worst because he had a good palace and he had, he was a big fucking emperor.
Right.
And he made laws, and that was all good and everything like that, except he didn't do so great when it came to the darkness and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't his favorite time, although he was in charge then. What he was cooking up at the same time that everything got dark was, hey, what I want to do is win all the old Western Roman parts back. I want to get everything. What are you reading
about this?
Huh. Well,
I'm listening to you.
He said, "All right, well, I want to get all the other
Emperor
parts."
Valens.
What?
Right? Was he the one? Was Emperor Valens the one?
It might have been. Richie Valens? Yes.
Yes.
His great grandson. Yep. So
Romans.
Justinian said, "All right, Justinian said, my big idea is let's get the old part of Rome and the western part to be part of our Byzantium, and then we'll have a big fat empire like we used to have, and everybody will be happy and love me." And so he was working on that, and that takes like army guys, and what army guys like to do, eat food. And
they do like to eat.
What do you need when you have wars in olden times? It's not like the first Gulf War that's over in like an hour. It takes forever because just getting to the place that you want to attack would take like a year. So you got to have people back home squirting out new potential soldiers. And the darkness fucked that all up.
Right.
All fucked up.
So the darkness even contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire.
Well, yeah, that's I mean, spoiler, but yeah. So the other thing that went wrong, and this happened not 10 years later, but like five years later or so, plague. Bubonic plague. Not the black, well, it was the same disease as the Black Death, but this was way before. I mean, this was not 1,000 years.
This one didn't wipe out half the population.
Except it did.
Did it? Huh.
You got places in, so again, 536, very bad year, caused a chain of events that caused like fully half of giant swaths of China to just die because they didn't have any food. And Justinian is still trying to get his shit together going, I want to make Rome bigger. And one of the things that Byzantium had to do was import all their grain from Egypt. And that did not get better when all the places that they would have gotten grain from that weren't Egypt were bathed in darkness.
Right. And Egypt had the plague.
So they're like, well, Justinian didn't create the plague, but everyone is pretty sure, and by this I mean scholars, or I could just say do your own research, but that's fucking stupid because that's what I did. Yeah. So
stupid talking heads.
The plague is carried by rats. Now I went down a rabbit hole actually of
a rat hole.
It was kind of a rat hole because it was talking about the fleas that carry the plague, and that there was something about the fucking colds that fucked up the way they ate, like, because fleas eat blood, but there was something gumming up their inside so that they'd eat and eat and eat, but they wouldn't get full because the blood wasn't getting to the, I don't know, whatever. It was a bunch of flea stuff, but I just thought it was neat. So they kept biting people when they ordinarily wouldn't have bit so many people. So, but this was all happening in North Africa. And then, but Justinian was like, well, you got to bring all your fucking shit up here, you know, your grain and whatnot. And then that caused the plague to hit his little area where he had shit going on. And there was this dude named Procopius who thought straight up he was not what you would call a reliable narrator, mainly because he did not like Justinian. So, you know, his shit was definitely going to be a little bit biased.
Right.
But Justin, he wasn't. He's going to explain about the plague. A sudden fever, but the body showed no change in its original color. Neither was it as hot as expected when struck by a fever, nor did any inflammation occur. But the fever was of such a lethargic kind. Within a couple of days, a bubonic swelling developed there in the groin of the body, which is below the abdomen, but also in the armpit.
Is that where the groin is?
Well,
there's an armpit groin.
He didn't know who his audience was. Is your groin, according to him, was below the abdomen, but also in the armpit. But no, that's where the buboes would grow, and also behind the ear and at different places on the thighs. Up to this point, then, everything occurred in the same way for everyone that got the disease, but from then on, very distinct differences developed, for there ensued for some a deep coma, with others violent delirium. For those who were under the spell of the coma forgot all who were familiar to them and seemed to lie, sleeping constantly, and if anyone cared for them, they would eat without waking. But some were neglected, and these would die directly through lack of sustenance. But those who were seized with delirium suffered from insomnia and were victims of distorted imagination, for they suspected men were coming to them to destroy them, and they would become excited and rush off in flight, crying at the top of their voices. And they couldn't eat. They'd throw up blood, yada, yada, yada. Basically, the way the plague works is you get these giant pus-filled sores, and that doesn't feel great. And then they pop and they squirt deadly, deadly pus all over everyone that's around, which also doesn't help. And that's how it spreads. So it's not a great way to die at all. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you were frozen. Oh, you were frozen for a long time. That's wild.
Oh, that's weird.
All right, so you would think this would have been Justinian's time to shine because he invented all those cool laws. He probably had like infrastructure and whatnot and everything like that. And even though it was kind of his fault that all these people got the plague, he fucked it up. Now, to be fair to him, he had a 50-50 chance of figuring out what to do. And his idea seemed right. It was, all right, we'll get
Right.
all these fucking plague people out of Constantinople. Just bring them out of town. Like, bring them somewhere else. Well, who's going to do it? You, people that don't have the plague. Go pick up those pus-ridden plague victims and carry them, presumably in your mouths, outside the city. So if he had robots, like some of those fucking Boston Dynamics horror robots to
Right.
drag the plague people out of the town, then he would have been a big genius. But instead, he just used the fucking healthy people. Which,
Oh no!
which
Made them sick.
it made it all worse. And then eventually, so many people were sick that he didn't have any more body carriers. So his idea kind of spiraled into not working anyhow.
Ugh. When in doubt, just set it all on fire.
So the estimates of how many people died are wildly disparate.
Somewhere between 3 and 500 million people died.
It's funny that you say that because it is kind of between 25 and 200 million.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's a problem. But more conservative ones think that it's somewhere between 15 and 100 million people,
Wow.
or somewhere between 20 and 60% of Europe's population, which is still an incredibly wide swath.
Just think
But-
about all right, what?
No, tell me.
No, I was just saying, just think about the odds of us fucking being here.
Well,
Going through how many different of these plagues and the volcano thing, and then
Now that you mention it.
Vesuvius, and so there's tons of crazy shit that how the fuck did the knuckleheads in our freaking ancestry live through it,
well, you just shot my super COVID powers in the ass, because using that logic, we should all be fucking invincible, because everybody walking around now, it comes from genetic stock that survived all of these other horrible things.
Yeah, but I think the last 100 years of modern medicine has probably weakened us a bit against shit. Think how many germs you used to come in contact with all the time. We used to ride the New York City subway and actually hold the bar.
I'd lick them.
And then go and eat.
Yep. You're right.
You'd probably die from that after using hand sanitizer whenever you touch anything.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, well, yeah, you're probably right. Whatever. I'm not going to get pissed because I'm
not going to get upset about it. I'm not looking to survive polio. I'm just, looking to get through my existence.
Well, there's a fucking sentiment to put on a card.
Exactly.
I'll give you that for your birthday. Good luck on continuing to get through your existence.
Good
buddy.
luck on continuing to live.
No, that sounds too optimistic. Continuing to get through your existence is the kind of fucking horrible shit that we need at this point. Thanks for playing out the string, buddy.
Way to trudge along.
Yep. So 536 started all this bullshit, basically, and then the plague came, and like I said, it fucked up Peru, and there were a lot of fucking problems, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
a lot of problems. And at the end of it, guess who was still standing? I'm still standing.
Justinian.
Ah, good for
Fuck
him.
yeah, he was. You weren't going to get him knocked out that easy.
Right.
And he went on to be a fairly successful, well, like we said, the best emperor. Now,
Yeah.
there's one little
Is
piece.
he the best emperor of either
Byzantium.
Roman Empire or just
no,
Byzantium?
not the best emperor like of all. He's not the GOAT, but
Right. Of emperors.
he's the Gobe, the greatest of all Byzantium.
Byzantium.
And they kind of, so remember one of the things that he did, he had all these fucking projects, right? Because he was the good emperor. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna build all this shit. Man, that's gonna take money. Who's gonna give me the money? All these fucking people that keep dying. It's fucking rude. So
how are they gonna help?
This is how he helped. He made him help. So let's just say you and I were neighbors, and I don't know what we did, stack fucking mud into little mud towers or whatever the whatever our job was. That's what we did.
Pile up rocks.
Yeah, we go to work every morning all covered with mud and come back the same way and feel good about what we accomplished. But anyway, then the plague comes, and since I was the one that had been actively licking the subway poles, I get the plague and die. And you don't come to visit me because of my squirting pus-filled buboes. And you're like, yeah, no,
buboes.
I know that if I go over there, he's going to pop one of those things and all the pus is going to go right into my mouth. But not just in your mouth, right into your throat. Like, yeah, exactly. Because that would be my dying wish.
Oh, my God.
Oh, do you want to see your family? No, I want to squirt this pus directly into Chewy's gullet.
Oh, my God.
But see, you were forearmed with this information because one day when we were stacking mud, I happened to reveal that is in the unlikely event that I die of plague. Here's how it's going to go down. And I told you my entire plan. So you were like, no, fuck it, I'm not going over there. So I'm dead.
Right.
And you're like, well, I'm still not going in there because everybody down the street that carried healthy, like every healthy person that carried a sick person got sick. So I'm just going to stay over here with my own mud pie factory and I'm going to just leave it alone. And then who comes trotting up but the tax collector going, yeah, Justinian is making a bunch of mosaics and he needs money. And you'd be like, who? Justinian.
Mosaics?
And you'd be like the guy in Monty Python and the Holy Grail going, I didn't vote for him. But so you'd be complaining and it wouldn't make any difference. And they'd be like, all right, well, give me your taxes. And you'd be like, well, fine. And I don't know what you thought money was, but you would give it to him. And then the tax collector would look over at my empty house and go, well, where's that fucking guy? And you're like, he became a pus geyser and died.
He became a pus geyser.
And this was Justinian's fucking genius brainwave. He was like, oh, he died, huh? Yep. Well, you better give me his taxes too. You'd be like,
jeez.
What?
That's
that's how it goes. We're getting the taxes from everybody, even if they're dead. And the only people that are going to give us the taxes are the people that are alive.
Nice.
So think about how fucking mad people are already mad about, oh, why my money got to pay for somebody to not work? Herp, derp, derp. I don't understand how budgets and government work. All that bullshit.
So it's a lot different than now.
But no. Take one of those people now and then show them you literally have to pay for a person that is not alive. in order to pay for shit in a city that you'll never go to, spent by a person whose name you can't spell because you can't write. And if you wanted to rise up against that particular fucking, piece of oppression, then the tax guy would just fucking clonk you on the head with whatever he had to clonk with and take your money anyway. So that's how that went down. And so the year 536 that started the volcano fucking chain that brought
Volcano
the plague,
wars,
caused the famine, ended up. Now, I'm not going to say it led. It's not like Byzantium toppled the next day or anything. Like Byzantium lasted for a long time after that.
It lasted like 1,000 years.
Yeah, partly because Justinian was such a good guy and got so many alive people to pay for dead people's taxes. And by the end of it, he did not get the rest of the Roman Empire back, but he kept the part that he had. Even though he was kind of a jerk, he also did some good things. And if you're going to tie it all back, all of this, because it was a volcano, is directly attributable to God.
Huh. There you go.
If I'm going to say, how do you get rid of people? Maybe instead of me trying to come up with my own deadly disease to kill all the boomers, theoretically,
Isn't that what COVID was?
Maybe I should try to get a volcano going.
That's probably pretty easy to do.
Because I don't think that we would
DIY
be able to
volcanoes.
Yeah, no, but it's got to be the right volcano. Now, it could be that volcano that's over in the on the west coast of Spain, I think it is, the one that's going to destroy the eastern seaboard of the United States eventually. But there's not it's not an if, it's just a straight up when.
Just a when. Yeah.
Yes, because the whole island is a volcano and half of it is going to slide into the ocean at some point because it's already fucking cracked, and it's going to create a giant tsunami.
Malicious.
Yes. And remember this, folks. When the next time you're at a cocktail,
we get waterfront property here?
Yeah, you're going to get the fucking Lex Luthor from the original Superman movie.
That stupid Superman Returns movie. He's building land, right?
Yeah, but in this, I'm going to buy beachfront property in fucking Indiana.
Oh, right. He was buying on the other side of the...
Yeah, from where... Because he was trying to knock the land off. Yeah, but in this instance, it's really going to happen. So if you live on the East Coast of the United States, you'll have... I think they said it's like 6 hours. So imagine this kind of... And I know that we're not talking about the year 536 anymore, but I'm trying to come up with a new way for there to be a worse year. So a volcano goes off and it makes everything dark, and there's another winter thing. And at first, half the population immediately says, well, this is the best thing. Now all you people bitching about global warming will stop bitching about it because look how cold it is. Wait, we don't have any food. Oh, no. And people start dying of famine, but since it's a volcanic fucking party, then there'll be the tsunami. That one will blow. Then probably Yellowstone will blow because the Earth has the plague, and the plague is us, by the way. The people, we're the plague.
Oh, people are without a doubt the plague.
And the Earth needs to express its buboes, and that's what the volcanoes are. So it's going to squirt all of its earth pus into the sky and kill us.
See, I thought that's what the movie The Happening was.
What?
It was the Earth fighting back.
Well, so far the Earth
Did you
is
even
winning
see
anyway.
that?
No.
It's terrible. It's like one of the worst.
I thought you meant the what's happening, where it was just rerun and Raj and delay. So if people are gonna start talking about, oh, this is the worst year ever, and you just want to be a dickhead, and this is I'm talking to we need a name for the people that listen to Strangeful.
Strangelings.
Strangelings? All right.
Yeah.
If you got this far in the episode and just didn't hang up and discuss, well, you can't hang up on a podcast.
Yeah.
If you didn't hit square in disgust, then go to at Acadia on Twitter or at Shuey Time on Twitter and tell us if you think Strangelings is a good name. And remember, when you're in when this would happen? A good time for this to happen would be in a Zoom meeting before everybody gets there, where there's that little time of where you kind of want to make small talk, but then there's people on mute, like trying to shove a sandwich in their mouth because they don't want anybody to hear. And then there's the one like, I'm president business, and he comes in and he's like, oh, well, who else do we need on this call? Like to get everything moving and wreck it.
Yeah.
In that little bit of time when somebody's oh man, this has been the worst year. You'd be like, oh yeah, not as bad as year 536, where the world literally went dark and then led to a plague that wiped out up to 60% of the population. Anyway, let's talk about this PowerPoint. So, and then when they ask you, well, how'd you find all that out? You can go, Strangeful Things. You don't listen to Strangeful Things? It's the greatest podcast.
It's the greatest podcast that I listen to.
In town.
Right. It's
in
Matthew's
town.
top. It's Matthew's, North Carolina's top podcast.
Yep.
I'm just saying that. I don't know that for a fact, but I will assume.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's Matthew's, North Carolina's top podcast.
Yes. That's what I was saying.
Although that's probably not true either. But whatever. If there's one better than us, we can fucking find them. So
we'll beat them up.
Yep, fuck that. So that's the show, folks.
That's the whole thing.
536. Byzantium, volcanoes, plague, famines. If you think about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, horse people of the apocalypse. War. Justinian was fighting wars to try and get Rome back. Pestilence. Plague's got that covered. Famine. Got that in spades. And death.
Lots of good famine.
Which really, if you have fucking horsemen of the apocalypse, just send death. Like, why do you need the other ones? Like,
what are the other guys going to do? Well, I guess
if you have one horse person that can just kill you, why do you need the other horse people?
Well, I guess if you have like a plague, makes his job a little easier, right?
Yeah, but fuck him.
Pestilence. They don't want death to have to do all the work.
That's true.
Weaken the flock and then let dead sweep in.
Oh, my fucking flock is weakened. That's for sure. All right. So then tell everybody how they can
in addition to Twitters that Acadia said, you can also go to allmylinks.com/strangefulthings, and that lists all of the show's links, Insta, Twitter, and all that, as well as Acadia. So go there and connect
my secret
with these bros.
Sexy stuff.
Yeah, his Fansly link is in there.
Oh, so many things to subscribe to. All right. I guess that's it. So if you're mad at somebody, aim your pus-filled bubo at their mouth.
Oh.
Probably the armpit one will be easier than the groin one, because I don't think you can really lead with unless you like
look, I'm doing a handstand. Get really close.
You're doing bicycle kicks. That's the only way I can think that would fucking work. But I don't know how you would. be like, hey, Jimmy, come over. Why? I'm doing bicycle kicks. Well, why do I want to be involved in that activity?
Why
Just
am
do
I
it.
coming over?
Just support me.
It's really cool.
But if you to do the armpit one, you just need to wear a tank top and not look super sick for long enough to get your arm up in the air and start squeezing. And the person that's looking at you, their mouth would be dropped open in shock at the pus-filled bubo, so they're doing half your work for you.
Saying pus-filled bubo.
All right, well, what are you going to say then?
I'm going to say keep on flapping.
Bye-bye.